Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another very special edition of the show. We've got an extra special guest today, the legend himself, the great vocalist from Helloween, Mr. Michael Kiske is with us today. Hello, Michael.
Good evening. Good evening, everybody.
Where are
Oh,
you?
I'm not Michael Jackson.
No, you're not. You're not. Where are
It's
you?
all about love.
Where are you zooming from? Are you in Germany right now? Where are you at?
I'm at home. I'm at home.
Okay.
Now I'm in Germany, yes, but I'm no longer in Hamburg, like where I used to live my entire life, and my family and the family before, up to the 1600. They were all Hamburg potatoes.
Gotcha. Okay. No longer though. No
But
longer.
I moved out. I mean, not into another city, completely in the countryside. It's like as you can see here, it's just trees.
Beautiful. You live out in the woods like me. Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. I'm in New York, but I'm in like upstate New York a little bit. So I live out in the woods as well. So nothing wrong.
I can drive into Hamburg in about 90 minutes.
That's not
with the train. With the car is about 55. Something
okay.
like that.
Not too bad. That's not bad. So we have Michael here today because there's if you've been living under a rock, I don't know how you would have missed it, but the United Forces tour is coming back to North America once again. And you guys are this time around gonna get to play songs off of your self-titled Helloween album, which came out a couple of years ago, but unfortunately due to COVID-19, you never really had a chance to come and present that album to the fans here. So how excited are you guys to finally get back here to be able to do all that and see North America once again and play your new music, right?
I mean, it was difficult. I think it was difficult for everybody. It was pretty hard for some people, existential likewise. It wasn't so bad for us for that matter, because we just finished a successful tour, so we could just sit it out, But not knowing what's gonna be possible, when and how. I mean, for musicians, I mean, for everyone who is involved in having to get people to get together, for what you're doing. That was really difficult. I mean, that's why we released the album in 21, because we didn't want to wait any longer. It was finished already in 1920. We wanted, 2020. It was finished in 1920.
1920, a long time ago.
1920. No, we finished in 2020, and we had the plan to release it and then touring at the end of the year. And obviously that didn't happen. So we just felt like let's release it and not be bothered with the fact that you can't just tour right away. Have it out there, people can listen to it, and it was. I mean, the phase of being happy to be able to do this again was especially last year. I mean, that was when we did the first couple of shows. We started in February in England with 2 shows, and the whole year we were basically all over Europe. It was awesome. And then till October, we were for 3 weeks or something in South America. So it's not completely new again, but of course we still got it all in our souls. This pandemic business, and America is always special. America has never been our biggest market, but it was always fun to play there. I mean, we did 2018. We did these, I think, 5 shows or something. It wasn't really a massive tour. It was just a tryout. Let's see what happens, and it turned out really nice. People showed up, even the places that were not that small. People showed up, so they decided to do a little more this time. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen, but I'm pretty optimistic, really. I'm pretty sure that America's done with this pandemic thing the same way as we are now, aren't you?
Yeah, I think we're ready. I've been to many shows now over the last year, so I think it's time, and it'll be kind of cool to see. I mean, you guys are playing. I'm from the New York area, so obviously I was at one of those shows back in 2018. You're in New York City. It was packed to the gills, and you guys played like 3 hours Helloween classics from the whole career, which was great. So, I mean, how difficult is it now to put together a set list that's going to honor all the classics, but you want to squeeze in some new songs, right?
Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult because of 2 things. First of all, it's not 3 hours this time because we teamed up with Hammerfall, which was also a safety net. We did that because we had to plan the tour like in 21, the tour for 22, and in 21, nobody knew how it's going to be. So just to be a little more safe, we were talking, and if they felt the same way, they didn't want to go on their own too. So since we know each other, we felt like, let's just do it together. Let's just make a package. It's more safe, you know. And it turns out people showed up. I mean, it was amazing. I mean, they showed up even more than before the pandemic. I mean, at least over here in Europe and in South America. But that's why we teamed up with them. And as a result of that, we will not be playing 3 hours again. It'll be something at 2 hours, something. And in addition to that, we want to play a few songs of the new album. So it's not going to be hit by hit, you know, banging out all the classics this time. It's going to be slightly different this time. But that's cool. You know, it shouldn't be exactly the same all the time, right? And when you have a new record, you want to play a bit of that too.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's a great idea you guys decided to bring Hammerfall out with you, because quite frankly, they're one of the bands that were greatly influenced by you guys, and they've made a good name for themselves. I mean, they headline here too, and they have done. So I think it's a great package for the fans to get. Basically, it's probably going to be close to 2 headlining sets from both of you. So that's awesome. Yeah.
And we get along very well. I mean, I knew Joachim, well, however he pronounces his name. I knew him from earlier, actually. I haven't been touring for ages, as you probably know. I was out of the band for 23 years,
right,
till 2017. I don't know, maybe the other band members toured with them, but I never toured with them. But I met him when we did some sort of a classic meets rock thing, not the one that Matt Sinner is doing, but another one with an orchestra and rock musicians, and they invited me to do that. And I think that was in 2014 or something, and that's when I met him. So I knew him, and this works really great. They're really nice guys, and very unique, you know, very good live band. So this totally makes sense. I mean, that's why we continue with it. You know, we discovered that it's not a problem to tour. People show up, but since it works so great, and we're too lazy to learn more songs, we continue to do that.
So you mentioned that you were out of the band for 23 years. That's a long time. So how hard or easy was it for you to jump back into the Helloween fold after all those years?
The Helloween thing was a lot easier than some might think. It was much more difficult when I really started to go on stage for the first time again, just, you know, mentally. When I did the first thing with Avantasia, which was the perfect surrounding to do it. Yeah. That was my first sort of live experience again after all these years. But it was the perfect thing to do it. I don't know if you're aware of Avantasia. You know Avantasia, right? It's like 8 to 9 singers, and everybody is swapping, so you don't have to sing the whole time. You know, I was already in Unisonic, and Unisonic was not a project. That was a real band, and the drummer of Unisonic was also the manager, and is still part of the Bottom Row management. And he was actually, when Toby was asking if I wanted to be part of at least the second tour, because I didn't do the first one. I was on the first record. I sang on the first record, but I didn't do the tour that they were doing after that. I was on every Avantasia record, vocal-wise, but I didn't tour with them. And Costa told me that he would really think it's a good idea. He thinks it's a good idea to do that, because you don't have to sing the whole time. You know, you just sing bits and pieces. So, and you not, it's not on your shoulders, so you can feel comfortable again. That was amazing, especially when you think about a few coincidences that came together, because it was the Avantasia in South America it's not North America, but in South America was the very first time for me ever playing live there. In South America, this is a big market now. But when we started in the 80s,
power metal's big down America,
there was there wasn't a live market in the 80s. It kind of developed in the 90s when I was off. So when I went there with Avantasia for the first time, the audience went nuts. It was amazing. I didn't know that I had a reputation there, and that, you know, that I had fans there. The whole venue was singing. You know, when they do this football choirs, like they were all singing. I had like goosebumps. You know, it was amazing. And but like I said, that was for me much more of a challenge to actually. Also, the way I have changed. You know, I don't look the way I used to. You don't know if people will be fine with it or whatever. They are, thank God. Otherwise, I'd be fucked. But it's like, those psychological pressure elements, they're much stronger when you haven't done that at all for over 20 years. But after Avantasia, 2 tours or 3, I don't remember, and then we did a few with Unisonic, I felt more comfortable on stage. And Helloween has also a bit of that Avantasia thing. I'm not the only singer there, We can split it up, so it makes it much easier for the vocalists. You don't have to sing the whole time. And the energy was really good right from the start. And that is always the secret of being able to do this on a certain level. When the energy is great, things have their own dynamic. It just takes you with itself, and that's how it certainly was, especially when we started 2017 and 18. And it wasn't as difficult then than it was when I really started after the long break.
Yeah, I mean, as a fan, it was very cool for me, who has followed Helloween from Walls of Jericho and the EP all the way back. I've been listening from the beginning, to see all your favorite musicians and vocalists, you alongside Andy and Kai and Michael, everybody's up there, and you guys seem like you're having a great time. And that's important. And the fans can tell that when the band is enjoying themselves up on stage. That
was one of the things why we took a very long time for preparation, because when you announce something like that, you can't really step back. If you once did that, and then after a tour, Kai and I would leave again, it would just not be as exciting. It would be a step down. It would, and they knew that. So you had to really make sure that this could work. So we did a lot. I mean, it was a long time for me anyway to even think about it, because I didn't want to have anything to do with it for a number of years. I was really disappointed, hurt feelings. I was disappointed about everything. There was a number of years where I didn't even want to have anything to do with the music industry. I was less dealing with other things. I was making a few funny acoustic records or solo records, and I enjoyed them, but it wasn't really my main concern. It was just something that I did, and it was a good time. But it was a long process to get to the point to really seriously think about doing something like that. And I make it short. If you don't know, I ran into Michael Kiske on a festival in France. We played there with Avantasia, and Helloween was playing there too. And the dressing rooms were next to each other. And I ran into Mike, I think it was 2015. I'm not 100% sure, but something like that. I ran into, maybe even 14, but I ran into Michael Kiske, and he was just standing there, and I had the most thing with him. Okay, that was we were the most arguing and fighting in that time. And he stood in front of me and he said, "Michael, what have I done that you can't forgive me?" And that's something, even if I didn't have any anger in me, I noticed there's nothing there anymore, which I didn't even think about it. But in that moment, I noticed there's nothing there anymore. But even if there would have been, you are right away unarmed. When someone says something like that, that was just breathing in and saying, "You know what? I think I've forgiven you a long time ago." And that was actually the start of me realizing there's just no need to be angry anymore. It's just, it's over.
You've both grown up by then. I mean, you're talking, that was almost 30 years ago, right? So it's
but you carry it with you. You carry it with you. You kind of pile it up, and you think it's still valid. You think it's still, but it isn't. So that was out of the way. And still, we didn't talk. I mean, I didn't think about any Pumpkins United thing by then either. But then, like a year later, we played with Unisonic, 3 shows in Spain. Great shows. It was not huge, maybe 2,000, but it was fantastic shows. The band was in great shape. It was great fun. And after one of the shows, Kai Hansen said to me, "Michael, one day we just got to do something with Helloween again before it's too late." And I said, "You know what? I'm open for it." So that was actually the initiation. I didn't even plan anything with it. I just said, I'm open for it. But Costa, who was playing the drums in Unisonic, and he's also tour manager and also is also part of the management bottom row. He was mentioning this to Jan Bayati, who is the manager of Helloween. And then Bayati called me up and was asking, was I serious about this or not? And I, yeah, why not? I'm open. But then we needed to, it took like 2 years or something, preparation. I needed to get together with Waiki. We needed to talk and see if it's really all out of the way, that was no problem at all because he has changed so much. I have changed too, a lot, but he has completely changed. He used to be very difficult. He's not difficult at all anymore. You know, all he wants is smoke a cigarette and have a good time. He doesn't give a fuck about any ego arguments anymore. You know, that's completely different to how he used to be. So the other thing was I didn't know Andy. We never met. You know, he was just a singer who had my job. That was all. But I never met him. So I flew over. Jan said, you got to spend some time together and see if you guys get along. Because if you don't get along, it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
And I flew over, and every time when I'm telling the story, I like to say, I'm not just saying this to make this thing great or, you know, promote this or whatever. I'm not the kind of guy who bubbles, you know, well, this is the greatest production we've ever done. You know, that's amazing. This is the best record we've ever did. I don't do shit like that. We are actually a band. When we released Pink Bubbles Go 8, we were not happy with it. I remember Rod Smallwood, manager of Iron Maiden, calling me up after we did the first interviews, because in the interviews, we said we didn't like the record. And he called me up, you know, Michael, you are a funny band. You're the first band that releases an album and says in the promotion that they don't like it. But that's the thing.
The death knell right there, right? There it goes, down the tubes, yeah.
And the thing is, I wouldn't say this thing if it wouldn't be true, but I clicked with Andy as if I knew him. It was like an old friend or something like that. We were spending about 2 weeks. We saw each other almost every day. We ate together. We were sitting somewhere looking at the beach and talking about everything. And it really worked out so well that there was just absolutely nothing in the way of giving this a serious try. And then we got together and made the real plans, how this could be done and whatever, you know. But as you can see, it really took some preparation to get there, because if it doesn't work, it's just bad for especially Helloween. You know, if they would have to cut it down again and then touring without me and Kai, it's just not the same party, you know.
Not anymore. No. Yeah, exactly. So, you know, you mentioned Pink Bubbles Go 8 before. Do you get any satisfaction at all nowadays? Because it seems like the perception of both Chameleon and Pink Bubbles Go 8 has softened over time. And now people are like, that's really, those albums aren't bad like we thought they were back then. They're actually pretty good. And I'm as guilty as that as anybody else.
Yeah, I understand it now. You know, I would have been the same way. You know, I was a huge fan of Maiden and Priest and, you know, Queensryche and Metallica in those days. And if they would have made a change in sound the way we did with these two records, I don't know if I would have understood it. I understand that now. They don't do that because they hate you. They do that because they love the previous records that much, you know. And the thing is, the band was not functioning really anymore. When Kai left the band, we were functioning in an abstract way as a band, but the spirit wasn't the same. Because Roland is a great guitar player, a great songwriter and all that. You know, that's not the problem, but he's a different individual. And if you take someone out, that's already a change. And you take someone else in, that's another change. Yeah. And it wasn't working anymore. I mean, at least it was working better when I was out. And Andy got in, then they had a working phase that somehow seemed to be working again. But in those days, it didn't work anymore, just from the spirit. So we did the best we could. I'm not saying the songs were bad, but we were not really functioning as a band anymore. My favorite records are still the Keeper records, especially Keeper 2, because the spirit was there. The band was functioning in the way it should. But I agree with you. A lot of people, when years go by and they listen again, you grow older, maybe your musical taste gets a bit wider and you understand a little more, you notice, well, it's not so bad. But it's understandable that in those days they couldn't follow because it was just too much of a moving away from the original sound. Kai should never have left. That's what I say. If he wouldn't have left, and he knows it was a mistake, he wouldn't admit it, but I know he knows it was the biggest mistake ever. Because can you imagine what would have happened if it would have continued, you know, and it would have been the following album after Keeper 2, and so we would be somewhere completely different today. The thing is, what bothers me about it is I learned a lot from this. From the spiritual perspective, I don't want to miss it. I don't want to miss the years off. It was really important. But from the band career point of view, I think the band ended, the Keeper band ended before it really unfolded. Yeah. Before we really got to the point of being really good. You know, I was a teenager. I was 18 when I did Keeper 1. I was 19 when I did Keeper 2. And sure, it's fine, but I think I could do that better now, you know, in terms of, it has a certain charm, so it's fine, okay? But I think the band was just in the process of developing its sound and its strength, and if we would have continued in the lineup, I think there could have been some great follow-up records.
Yeah, I agree with you. But history is history, right? That's
how it goes.
Yeah.
That's how it goes.
What are some of the songs that you look forward to singing live the most? Which are the ones you enjoy?
I enjoy Eagle Fly Free. Yeah. I think that's amazing. It's always fun to do Forever and One with Andy together because it's very easy to sing and the audience is always singing along. There are a whole bunch of songs. Dr. Steen is fun. Keeper is always fun.
Oh yeah.
Especially the classics are great fun. I love Angels, but it's hard to sing. Angels is really hard to sing. I can't really tell why, but the chorus is something from the way the melody goes that really I need to really concentrate to be pulling it off. Some songs are just bitches, and that one's certainly a bitch. But I like most of them. You know, I have my favorites, like the ones that I've mentioned. I'm sure I could mention a few more, but it's mainly the classics, especially Keeper 2 and Keeper 1. Yeah. Those are. I have only great memories about that time. It was just fantastic. Anything we did was just amazing. I mean, in terms of how it felt, you know, we loved it. I thought it was the greatest records of the world. The fans were there, the success was there, the spirit in the band was there. It was just amazing. It was the best time ever. And the way you experience it when you have that age also adds to it. When you get older, you do get appreciative of other things. But when you're a young one, you know, and you are a fan of certain bands, and it's not so long ago, it was a couple of months ago, you were in school and you would just, you know, I almost screwed up my German test in school because the night before I was at an Iron Maiden concert, you know. It's like when that's not so far away, when it's just a couple of months away, and then suddenly you can do this yourself, you know, that's just a blast. And that's how I remember this time. I was so happy, especially during like the Keeper 1 time, you know, before Kai started talking about leaving the band and stuff. I thought it was perfect.
Yeah, I mean, I remember seeing you guys live on the Keeper tours here in the States and New York, and you guys just looked like you were having an absolute blast up there.
Yeah, and that's always the key. You have to somehow. That's why I sometimes drink red wine. If I don't, I usually never drink alcohol in private. Never. I never drank a drop of alcohol until 2010. But when you do this a lot during a couple of weeks, sometimes you need a little helping hand, you know, to get into the party mode. So I drink a glass of wine or maybe two, and then it's fine. You have to get into the party mode. You have to get it. Usually the fans do that for you. I don't know if you ever stood on a stage yourself, but it's like when you play, and especially when it is a big mass of people like Wacken or whatever, when you play for more than 100,000 people, and you see that they're all on your side. I saw that when we did Tail That Wasn't Right, and I was telling them just turn on the lights of the smartphone, and you could see it was all the way to the back. It was like we had them all. Even though a lot of people came for maybe other bands, you know, we had them. And the energy that comes from a crowd like that likes you, I mean, I'm talking positive energy. It's just amazing. It's almost like a drug. It's so intense sometimes. Honestly, I couldn't remember the next day, did we play a little time? You know, it just didn't stick in my head because the energy was so amazing. So most of the time, you think you have to get yourself into the mood before, but you don't really, because as soon as you go on stage and that wall of energy comes, you are there. You know, it's just a head thing.
Yeah, one of the things I remember fondly of the New York City show at the beginning of the Pumpkin United's tour at Irving Plaza is, you know, midway through the set, you know, and it's packed to the gills. We're all sitting there like this in the crowd. And I remember like looking around at me and seeing people who just absolutely love those songs from Walls of Jericho and the Keepers albums and even the 90s and more recent stuff. And everybody is just having the time of their lives, and the passion of the fan base for your songs. It was just really cool because I was feeling it myself because I'm a longtime fan, but seeing people like younger than me, I mean, I'm probably a couple of years younger than you. And it's like, and people just showing this love for Helloween music and seeing all of you guys on stage together for the first time ever like this. That was really something. Really,
I agree with you. I thought the energy was just like in Europe. You know, America used to be a bit more difficult. You know, maybe that's because we were young in those days, and not everybody knew who we were. So you got to work for, you know, getting accepted or whatever. But I felt like this time the audience, the energy was just like in South America or just like in Europe. It was really passionate, and it was not at all like I remembered it in the beginning. Sometimes in the 80s, you know, we usually won them over after a couple of songs, you know, but you had to play a few tunes until they got on fire. And it wasn't the case because they all knew us. And it was, yeah, I agree with you. I was surprised myself because I was expecting it a little bit different, but it was just the energy, the way the audience reacted to it was really nice. And it felt really familiar. Yeah. That's why we come back this time. Yeah. A little bigger, you know, to see where we go, where we get now, and from that you calculate what you do next. You know, if it's basically in America, we're not really a typical band that is necessarily huge in America. We have a very German European kind of sound in what we're doing. So it's always just testing out and see how far you can go. You know, I mean, the Scorpions. They've always been much bigger, especially in the US, because they have a much more American sound, even though they're German and have the German kind of attitude a little bit. But the music is quite American, which is because of how they grew up, you know, what kind of bands influenced them and stuff like that. We were influenced a lot by British bands, really. Like Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, and stuff like that. Maybe Queenstrike, but Queenstrike never sounded very American. but then again, bullshit, right? I mean, they're an American band, so they sound like American, like American metal. But what was I? Yeah, in America, it's always the thing of trying out, or like Rammstein. I mean, they're insanely successful. They're like, I think I read that they're even bigger than the Stones. Yeah, they sell out like 55 twice.
Stadiums, yeah.
It's unbelievable. It must have a lot to do with this great circus that they carry around with all the fireworks, you know, that people get excited about it, you know. Yeah. Music is quite simple. It's interesting. I mean, but when you heard one or two songs, you know what they sound like. You know what I mean? And it has to have. It's the whole package, I guess, that attracts people that much. I mean, it's insane how successful they are. And they toured right after the pandemic. And then, I mean, there are even places where they have like 80,000 twice and things like that.
I think for the Rammstein, it's the whole spectacle. It's this whole the fire and the explosions and
and also the individuals on stage. You know, they're interesting. They're the characters. You know how they look. I mean, it's an interesting band. There's no doubt. You know, and they have a very strong visual image. We're much more punk. You know, we're much more punk and rock and roll, while they're much more arty. You know, it's almost like you go on a Kennet market and you go through what was it when you're supposed to get scared? What you call it? We call it Geisterbahn in German.
The House of Horrors type of thing.
Yeah, it's almost like a little horror show. You know, something like that.
Yeah. So in closing, we got 13 dates coming up in North America on the United Forces tour, along with Hammerfall. So you guys are hitting like New York City, Toronto, Dallas, Las Vegas, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Denver, all the big spots.
Chicago.
Chicago. Yep. So you're hitting all the big spots. So is this going to be it for this, or are you guys planning to maybe go and do another record and then coming back again? Any talk of that at this point?
Oh yeah, we are long past the limitation thing. I mean, when we started this, we only made contracts till the end of 2018. You know, when the whole touring circle came to an end. So just in case someone doesn't feel anymore, he wants to do it or whatever, that wouldn't be you wouldn't be tied to any contracts. But since everything worked so well and there was just nothing to say against it, we decided to make the album. And since the album has been received very well too, all over the world, which is surprising to me. I don't even think it's that good, but it's like it was received. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just a couple of things that I'm not so mad about in terms of the mix and the mastering. But that's just, musician. But it was received very well. People really liked it, and so there's just absolutely no reason to stop. If they stop showing up, at the concerts, I think that's when we slow down. That's when we make you just go where people want to see you. That's the way it is, And if we play in America now, and there's just half of the people there, we will reduce it again. That's just the way you do it. If it works out great, we might even try a little bigger next time. That's the way it goes.
Yeah, cool. So I want to thank Michael Kiske for joining us here today and talking about the upcoming Helloween and Hammerfall tour, which is slated to start in May, I believe, right? So here in North America, United States and Canada. So if you haven't gotten your tickets, please go out and do so. Trust me, you will enjoy yourself. And also make sure you check out the self-titled Helloween album, which now has been out for a little bit, but maybe we'll see more new music from the band. So Michael, thank you so much for joining us here. Good luck on the tour. I hope to see you guys in New York City. And for everybody watching, visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube, all together, all the damn time. Enjoy your weekend. For Michael Kiske, I am Pete Pardo. Have a good weekend, everybody. Take care.
Thank you. See you.